We were talking earlier with Lucy mostly leading the way about the Swamp Kings documentary on Netflix, which Lucy woke up from a long nap to watch all 4 episodes of and did not like and does not recommend. I watched 2 episodes and also do not recommend, even as a Florida graduate. And so now we bring in Adnan Virk and David Samson, host of Nothing Personal on the Meadowlark Media Network, DraftKings Network. David, Adnan, thanks for being here.
Let's mention my podcast, Cinephile, which is better than Nothing Personal. But go ahead.
I was going to get there, but I wanted to give David his props first because I knew you would hammer in there and promote your own stuff. Was this the impetus for your top 5 that you're doing today, which is top 5 sports docs? Was it just all the releases of the Untolds, David?
Yeah, I've been watching a bunch of the Untolds, and I started Swamp Kings yesterday, and I've got to get through it because I have a rule that I have to finish what I start, but God, is it awful.
That jacket is beautiful. What is that?
Velvet?
Hey. What is that, velvet?
What an amazing jacket. It's beautiful. It's not even Christmas time, but it makes me feel like it's Christmas time. Adnan, sorry, go ahead.
We come up with all these different concepts to do this once a week, and I was thinking about sports documentaries because there's so many of them that there's very little chance that Adnan and I would have similar tastes or even similar appreciation to what would be the best sports documentaries. And certainly Swamp Things is not going to be on my list, and I assume not on yours, Adnan.
Well, Adnan, I'm curious how quickly these lists came to your head, because obviously a movie guy, but sports documentaries is an interesting topic.
No, it's a good point, Izzy. Like, there's a couple that come right away, which we'll get to my list. And then after that, you kind of have to sift through a little bit. Sometimes you stretch the definition of what is a sports documentary. You know, as we often do with sports movies, sometimes the best sports movies don't have a lot of sports in them. But I feel with utmost confidence, my list is, as usual, much stronger than David's.
And as usual, do we have a third list that we have to throw in here for Amin?
Right here.
All right, then you came up with that literally 10 minutes ago.
But I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good on my selections. So.
If you want to talk like Michael Caine, you simply talk slower.
Good job, Juju. I like it.
All right, so where do we start? Do we start with David? Do we start with Adnan? Do we start with Amin for some reason?
Start with David.
All right, we'll start with David. David, are there any OLIs? We're going straight to number 5.
I'm going right to number 5.
Hey, David, did you know that I created the OLIs? I just wanted to let you know.
I actually did not. That's very cool.
Whatsoever. Okay, there's tape to prove it. All right, number 5, David.
Cheer.
That's a cheerleader
The documentary that is in my top 5 because I knew nothing about the craziness of Cheer from this school in Navarro, which I'd never heard of. Forget what happened to Jerry after the show, which is a total nightmare. It doesn't take away from how I felt while watching it at the time. Cheer is a great documentary.
I'm writing
5.
these down not because I'm Stugotz, it's because I want to watch the ones that I haven't seen yet. So Cheer, I remember.
Where everybody knows your name.
Oh,
That's
boy.
Cheers.
Adnan, number 5.
$2.
Oh, we'll let Samson do his list 5-1, Izzy.
Oh, 5-1, excuse me. Samson, number 4.
Hoop Dreams. When I was a child, I watched Hoop Dreams, or I was much younger, and that is what I wanted. I thought there was an opportunity for me to be in the NBA. I looked at the story, the plight. It is a story of...
You thought there was an opportunity for you to be in the NBA.
No,
What's wrong with that? What's wrong? I don't hear the problem.
Also,
I would like to expand that thought,
there's
please.
no chance you were a child when that came out.
I spent hours and hours shooting free throws, dribbling with just my left hand, doing with my right hand tied behind my back because I wasn't tall, so it required me to work more. But no, I was never able to be good enough.
You actually tied your hand behind your
team,
back instead of just holding it behind your back, David.
Yes, because I would be too tempted to have the right hand, which was the dominant hand, come forward. I would just do this for hours in the basement of my apartment building in New York City because there were no parks to go to. I grew up in a city. So there was a basement that we put a hoop up, which was over a rafter. So I had to learn how to shoot with an arc over a rafter to get it in the basket.
When did you learn to kill those dreams?
When I got cut by Coach Steve Tremblay, 9th grade, freshman year, when he took a guy named Josh Price, who was tall but couldn't play basketball, and told me he cut me because I'm short.
He said,
look
your
at you
shot's really
now.
good, but it's really weird. It's got high arc, but it doesn't go above 11 feet.
Take this, Coach Tremmel. Look at him now.
Number 3.
Believe me, I wish I could find him.
David.
3, Icarus. If you haven't watched, Please watch Icarus. It is shocking what went on with sports doping and with Russian sports doping. And this documentary takes you deep inside with a whistleblower going through all of the things that they did. And it is hard to imagine that the Olympics could be any more tainted than they actually are.
So that must have been better than the Balco doc, which, again, was not that revealing.
You guys need to stop watching Netflix for documentaries. Let me just say that right now.
There's good ones on there, some. Just not lately.
I just reviewed Hall of Shame on today's Nothing Personal, actually, and I didn't learn anything, but I did love watching him squirm about Barry Bonds.
Number 2, David.
Free Solo.
That one I've seen.
If you want to know what it's like to want to die and you want to look at a mountain and say, I can do that with no net and just some chalk, then watch Free Solo and think to yourself, thank God that my child is not named Alex.
Listen, Free Solo, Samson, that's the ultimate look at me, Louie documentary. I'm like, just this guy trying to climb a mountain. Like, enough of these stories of look how powerful and strong I am. Like, so far your list is okay, but I'm going to have to call foul on that one.
Number 1, David.
Athlete A.
Yes.
Athlete A is an important documentary about Larry Nassar. And for those of you who don't know the story, then you're living under a rock. But this actually goes into significant detail about what went on and what culpability USA Gymnastics has, how everyone actually knew what was happening, and the horror that these victims went through. And this is a story that continues to this day. It's called Athlete A. It's the best sports documentary I've ever seen.
Adnan furiously reshuffling his list, it looked like, after he said Athlete A there.
Listen, Izzy, it's a good documentary, but we're talking number 1 of all time. Athlete A, it's thought-provoking, it's harrowing, it's obviously important subject matter, but the best of all time? Like, you're firing up Athlete A? No way, my list is unquestionably better. So let's kick it off with number 5.
Let's do it.
Pumping Iron.
Oh, come on.
Yes. I knew. Listen, Izzy knows his way around the gym. I mean, if Stugotz was there, he'd be pumping his fist. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1979. This movie announced the arrival of Schwarzenegger and bodybuilding, baby, as a big-time sport. Schwarzenegger, Pumping Iron, 1979. Let's go.
Amin, comment?
Schwarzenegger.
Let's do it. Yes.
Number 4, Adnan.
Number 4 is The Last Dance. Now, at times, I have some quibbles with the fact it's basically a hagiography, the world according to Michael Jordan, but at the same time, it's still provocative storytelling. It still captivated all of America during COVID. I still like the stories involving Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr, etc. It does have its weaknesses, but it's notable. I'm putting The Last Dance at number 4.
If it was a per-minute documentary, I think for quality, that one would go down the list by a few. 9 episodes, was it? Number 3, Adnan.
Number 3 is a great one, Murder Ball. 2005 documentary about young paraplegics who involve themselves in quad rugby. It's their chance to take out their anger and hostility and play sports again. It's an incredible documentary. I know Samson loves it. Quad rugby, full throttle competition. If you haven't seen Murder Ball, check it on Peacock. It's an awesome sports doc.
Number 2.
I am all into that, and I understand why it's on your list, but you're doing it just to show off sort of your range of sympathies.
Okay, well, it's about to get really good. If so far you didn't like The Last Dance or Pumping Iron, the top 2 are unquestionably top 2. Shame on you for not having my number 2, When We Were Kings. I mean, you're not getting much better than Muhammad Ali. Are you kidding me? The greatest athlete of the 20th century, Ali, Rumble in the Jungle, the storytelling involving Don King and his theatrics. You got Norman Mailer. You've got George Plimpton as talking heads. I mean, George Foreman, Ali, Boumaier. When We Were Kings, not in your top 5, disqualifies your list completely. My number 2, arguably my number 1. And it's the one thing we do agree on. Number 1 is indeed the story of Arthur Agee and William Gates, the great Steve James, recent guest on Cinephile. Hoop Dreams is unquestionably the greatest sports documentary of all time.
I feel like, just based on your body language there, David, you are admittedly taking an L here.
Well, listen, I'm not going to argue against Muhammad Ali or Hoop Dreams, but I still continue to maintain that the problem with the segment with me and Adnan is I think Adnan just goes to the best top 10 lists and then he aggregates them. And I don't think that you have any connection to any of these documentaries, but it's what you think the audience will agree are the top 5.
Listen, right now, we take an audience poll. On my list, it's unquestionably coming through as a fan favorite, right? Juju,
I'm on it.
We're looking at, yeah, we're on it right now. Let's go ahead. Let the people speak. In the meantime, I do want to hear Amin's list, because I think Amin's list will have some similarities with mine,
Well,
if
I
we may.
can guarantee that Amin didn't go through any sort of top 10 list. He wrote this thing down in 2 minutes, and so it's genuine.
Yeah, and as a result, I did not have When We Were Kings, not because it's not top 5, but because I forgot about it. So
Number 5, I mean.
no, I have an OLI.
OLI.
OLI is Murder Ball.
Yes.
It's David. I know what you're thinking, but it has nothing to do with sympathies. It has everything to do with this thing that I never even thought of, and then you watch it like, oh my god! And it's such an incredible, captivating story
Like
about
that doc
something
about being tickled.
I never even imagined or thought about. Right. Number 5. I can't believe the 2 baseball guys didn't have Baseball by Ken Burns. I mean,
An
too long.
encyclopedia.
I mean, look, it's long. Well, look, it's long, but it made me interested in baseball, and that should say a lot. Number 4, Lance, the Lance Armstrong documentary. Let me tell you
Not
something.
for me, I mean.
I'm gonna tell you what. You never, ever, ever get documentaries where the subject, who is literally the villain of the story, is so open and doesn't try to sugarcoat it or paint it in a certain way. I thought it was so honest and straightforward, where he is the villain and he acknowledges it, and it uncovers a lot of the stuff in cycling that was, again, we heard about, but we didn't know what the details were. Number 3, Maradona. You have, I don't think, nowadays it's commonplace, but the idea of a great athlete from 30 years ago would have almost every moment of his life documented since he was about 13 or 14 years old, going from Argentina, going to Barcelona, flaming out there, going to Italy, and becoming an international global star, getting hooked on coke, etc. Like the archival alone is mind-blowing.
Hand of God. The guy cheated. Let's be honest. Go ahead.
Yeah, and did a bunch of coke, let me point out again. Number 2, Hoop Dreams.
Nice.
Hoop Dreams was my number 1 for the longest time. And when people call it a sports movie, I always say it doesn't count because it's a documentary and they're obviously dealing with reality, so that gives them an advantage. But it was unseated number 1, OJ Made in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It won an Oscar, enough said.
Feels like, and like every single minute of that was amazing. But again, if you want to catch Adnan's range of sympathies, you should listen to Cinephile. And if you want to listen to Nothing Personal for more of David Samson's insight into the business of sports. Thank you, guys. The top 5 list was great today.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks, Izzy.
The hell was the U?
Right?
Which one?
The
Part
first
1 and 2.
I would have gone with the first one, which is a football documentary series that I actually liked.
David,
It was about football.
Hoop Dreams came out in 94.
Amin's been poking holes in David Sampson's story when he referred to Hoop Dreams, where he said he went down to his basement as a child watching Hoop Dreams, which we did the math and he was in his mid-20s, and then tried out for his high school team and got cut as a mid-20s person.
Honestly, all of that was secondary to the line where I know listeners are going to jump and tweet about this in every other social media program, where he said, I had to do it in my basement because I lived in New York City and there were no parks. And like they literally call basketball the city's game. You go to New York City, anywhere in New York City, whether you're going all the way to the tippy tip of Washington Heights or all the way down to Battery Park, even in the smallest crevices and areas of the city, there's always a hoop and at least a half court everywhere throughout New York. So this idea that like, oh, I wanted to play basketball, but I lived in a city and there was nowhere to go. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, I'm envisioning David Sampson at Rucker
At
right
Rucker
now,
Park,
though.
yeah,
Come on.
exactly.
It's a little difficult. You feel me? He can't get up the same shots that he want to get up.
If he developed a hook shot, I think he would have been fine.
Have you seen that one clip of the guy going, oh,
I
it's
don't
just
think
this
so.
guy just throws a bunch
Oh,
of hook
I
shots
have
from like
seen that guy.
3-point range, and like there's no way he hits those at a high percentage, but they're videotaping every shot because they got a bunch of clips of him hitting those.
I would love to see Samson going up to Rucker Park saying, I got next. The hell you are. Okay.
You know what's fun? The funniest version of that is he goes out there and then he's just and-oneing it, like dribbling with his knees. It's like, and he's doing the magic.
What do you think his and one name would be?
Ooh. It'd have to be baseball related, no? Or would it
The
be
president.
like Long Island
Shortstop.
related?
Shortstop.
There it
Oh,
is.
baby, shortstop.
Wow.
There it is. Speaking of basketball, we've got Team USA just finished. Or are they still in the middle of this exhibition? But they just finished an exhibition.
Yeah, it's about to kick off now.
Right, and so the World Cup or whatever
Yes.
it's called is about to kick
The
off, and
Basketball
there's
World Cup.
Anthony Edwards seems to be sort of rising up as the leader of this team. Steve Kerr has called him unquestionably the guy.
Unquestionably the guy.
Which, again, we should start talking about tampering in these situations when these coaches say these things.
Is
which
that
is
why
where
they do these, by the way? Like, is that why the coaches do this? Is just to, like, try to recruit players down the road? Because, like, why is Steve Kerr wasting his time with this, or Spo?
Well, Jeremy is convinced Spo is in the perfect position, right? Because Spo doesn't have to be the voice of the team. That's Steve Kerr. Spo's an assistant. He's supposed to be working individually with these guys. He can tell them whatever the heck he wants and then doesn't have to go to a microphone and doesn't have to say anything. So nobody's going to ask him, hey, what did you say to Anthony Edwards? But Jeremy knows that the sort of conspiracy is to not let Spo talk to any of these guys, right?
Jeremy, I know you're going to explain it, but like in your mind, like Spo's going to, hey, Ant, man, I hate how Chris Finch uses you. I mean, if I had you, I'd put you in these situations. But,
no, I think Spo's the type of guy who just shows Anthony Edwards that he knows how to put him in the best position to succeed. And while we're talking about the Olympics, what I was really thinking about was I feel like eventually, because of course Heat Twitter is, while taking victory laps for getting James Harden fined, also now linking Anthony Edwards to the eventual Miami Heat destination that is inevitable for his career, right? We talk about all the Tom Green guys, the guys linked to Dwayne Wade. He's another one of the guys in that list of players who loved Dwayne Wade growing up and looks at Heat culture as maybe a place that maybe he could be someday. And so when you look at the Olympics, we know how the recruiting's worked for Miami in the past. We know that Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and Chris Bosh and, they had their conversations at the Olympics, and we know that the reason Damian Lillard seems to like Bam Adebayo so much is because of what happened with them at the Olympics. And so I think after the inevitable conclusion, which is a number of years down the road, Anthony Edwards and Spoelstra linking up down here in Miami, that I think eventually NBA teams are just going to stop sending their best players to the Olympics if the Heat are associated at all.
But you nailed it, because that's how it goes with Spo and Anthony Edwards, right? He goes up to him initially for some individual workouts, and he's like, oh, well, about the same height as Dwayne was when we used to do this early on, and I sort of helped him develop his jumper. But then you go, but you don't need as much help on the jumper, right? Because you've got the range. So let's work on some other things that I did with Dwayne right before he won his first championship as a 3, 4-year-old.
Before that first one.
Now, do you do the, all right, Dwayne, I mean, my fault, man.
My bad.
It's like Randall Cobb. 12 would not pass. 8. 8. Like, get over yourself, Randall Cobb.
And you randomly just you only bring up stories like in the clinching game of a championship series, right? Man, game 6 against Dallas. That was his time where he came, right before the celebration of the championship and the trophy and him getting the finals MVP. Yeah. And so you just milk that over and over and over. So by the time he's done, he's like, man, my coach in Minnesota never talked to me like that.
You watch him do like a move, like, great move, Ant, man. It's like watching Dwayne all over again, isn't it?
But then eventually you got to neg him, right? Eventually you got to start giving him like, when Dwayne was your age, he had that just a little bit better, right? Like there's little things that you got to do. But with my help, I can help get you there.
You don't put it. That's too blatant, Jeremy. You got to say something like a little bit. Like, Dwayne was really good at that, but he was lucky. He started with us. He had the benefit of being in our building every day.
Good.
Right. And Jimmy couldn't even play with Cat. He didn't even like that over there. So,
but you'll figure it out. Like, you just keep saying, well, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
You'll figure out the type of place you need to be.
Yeah.
But then you move on from the Dwayne fascination to the Jimmy conversation. Jimmy was already over there, tried to lead. Look what he's doing here. And if you just sort of speed up the timeline, it's like, yeah, Jimmy didn't get here till he was, 30, 31. Like, maybe you want to get here a little bit earlier, start sort of moving the needle right now.
I don't think
Who
you
knows?
can say that.
Maybe.
You can't say if you want to get here a little earlier. That's when you start getting in trouble.
That's true. You probably can't say that. But you probably just start talking about sunshine and whatnot and sort of make the implication.
But he can also start sharing stories of what it's been like talking with Tom Crean over the years, of working with Jimmy and working with Dwayne, and how, those guys, they just had that Heat culture sort of bred from them from the time they were in college. I don't know what it was that made them so ready for the Miami Heat organization, but there was something about the way they were prepared in college that it just worked here. Same with Victor Oladipo, weird enough.
Thank you. We had another guy in Victor who we were supposed to bring back. Unfortunately, he hurt himself, so that project is a little bit over. We kind of have a blank space.
Yeah, weird how that line of 2 guards from
crazy.
Tom Green just hasn't continued the way that it could.
Call me crazy. Is it possible that a young star doesn't want to play for the Heat in the future?
No.
Come on.
I'm just asking.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You sound like a fool.
You sound insane.
Just saying.
Crazy.
I just thought of a very important question. My sister Lucy, who is your favorite basketball team? Who do you root for?
Good
I
question.
don't really have one. So I grew up in North Carolina, and they were the Bobcats when I was growing up, and they were really, really bad. We used to go there every year on like a school trip, and tickets were like $7.
I like how you say you grew up in North Carolina as if there's no connection to basketball in North
no.
Carolina.
There's a
Like,
huge
how
connection.
could I like
Wait,
basketball
there's a
in
huge
North
connection.
Carolina?
I grew up
College
in Carolina.
basketball.
Don't know anything about NASCAR.
Duke, North
Yeah,
Carolina,
no, I loved
MJ.
college basketball growing up. Like I watched Duke and UNC a lot, but like
When you were at journalism camp? Or,
Yeah, it was very fun. No one cared at all about the NBA where I grew up because like, who are you going to care about the Bobcats?
You mean Emeka Okafor wasn't selling tickets?
Ray Felton,
Gerald
Sean
Wallace.
May.
Yeah, the Charlotte
Michael
Wilders.
Kidd
Yeah, I would
Gilchrist?
go see them if they were the Charlotte Wilders any day.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Purple shirt guy doesn't register for it.
Oh, purple shirt guy.
That's a legitimate question. I want to look at Lucy in the
Purple
face.
shirt
You have
guy?
no idea who Purple Shirt Guy is.
You don't know purple shirt
Oh,
guy.
wow.
2018, where were you?
You cannot tell
College.
the history. You cannot tell
I
the
was in
story of the
Iowa.
history of basketball without purple shirt guy.
I'm waiting for the day they hang his purple shirt from
Like,
Kaseya
are we
Center.
going to explain it, or am I just going to sit here?
Nah, we're
Wayne
just going
Wade
to keep
ended
saying
him.
purple shirt guy.
So there
Oh,
was
cool. This is fun for me.
there was a great playoff series in which Wade started hitting threes.
Dwayne
all
Wade
of a
is
sudden.
Anthony Edwards before Anthony Edwards, just so you know.
That's some
It's going to be a largely forgotten first round series between the Hornets and Heat.
Google Purple Shirt Guy so you get a visual while he tells
There
his
was this
story.
nationally televised game in which the Miami Heat were up against elimination. I think it was a Game 6 in Charlotte. And there was this guy courtside who was wearing a drawstring bag, a headband, and a purple
The
shirt.
drawstring bag's such a great detail. So much money having courtside
Lime
seats
green.
has a drawstring bag.
Why wasn't he drawstring bag guy instead of purple shirt?
He was going at Dwayne Wade the entire game.
Talking.
Standing up in his seat. It's poor form to be standing up the entire game. He made himself a spectacle, and he lost that game for Charlotte because Wade tapped into 06 Wade. He started bombing away from three,
Yeah.
and he was talking smack not to the players guarding him, but to a purple shirt guy. And ever since that moment, purple shirt guy disappeared. We had purple shirt guy on the show to talk about like the infractions.
I forgot about that.
And he's just never returned. The purple shirt went away. He would, if he were still around today, he'd be the single most infamous fan.
Ironically, Purple Shirt Guy, colorblind. That's not true.
Spo could just wear a purple shirt to practice.
That's just what he said after regrettable
Oh,
remarks.
what? I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Spo could just wear a purple shirt to practice with Anthony Edwards
There
and be
you
like,
go.
oh, you know, it's funny. I'm wearing this purple shirt, but it's funny. It reminds me of this first round series that D had, back in the day. And that was really once he had, he'd perfected his game. He was actually on the back nine, but because of the things we'd instilled in him, he got to have a little extra life on that career.
Dwayne gave him one of these.
Oh, yeah.
Face.
That's right. Yeah, I
Not,
remember
to,
that.
not to the crowd.
Yeah.
not-
Was
and
Cam
this
Newton at
Cam-
the game?
Yeah, he was there.
He
Cam
was
was there.
Yeah, so
Really?
that's why he did the Superman.
Is
Cam
that when
Newton.
that started? Because he did that a little bit more.
No,
Dwayne.
Cam Newton invented that.
Yeah,
or
yeah. but I thought
popularized
Dwayne
it.
took it
anyway.
up
Invented it?
afterward.
He invented
Cam
it.
Newton invented it?
I imagine Superman invented the Superman, but he popularized it.
So Spo's a menace, and I'm wondering though, do they just then give him the head coaching gig like next time or whenever they hire somebody else for Team USA, so that he has to be the microphone guy?
He seems like the next guy in waiting, right? Like he seems to be the guy in basketball right now who would be in line to be USA's next basketball coach. But I mean, there's no real reason to think he wouldn't be, but I think that you're right. Maybe the reason they force him in front of the microphones is so he has to start publicly commenting about this guy as opposed to,
Hey, so you were talking
doing it
to
behind
Anthony
the scenes.
Edwards. What exactly did you say?
Yeah, what was your conversation about, Spo?
I mean, real quick, you know what
that laugh?
shocked me was Greg Popovich signing a 5-year extension.
That shocked you?
Shocked the heck out of
Until
me.
you saw the dollar amount, they're like, oh, that's not so
Well, he
shocking.
doesn't care about the money. He wants to be a D3 coach, if you remember correctly.
Papo.
Yeah.
This man wants all this money just so he can pay for like super expensive wines. But I honestly thought that like he would be done and it was just like reinvigorated somehow. And now he's got Wembanyama. He can't leave during Wembanyama's run, can he?
I mean, he can. He can as long as the check's still clear, right? Like, if he's got to give back the money, then no, unfortunately, he's got to keep working. But I do want to go back to this whole idea of Spo being like a Team USA, being like just a hunting ground for him to poach talent from other teams. I like the idea that Spo's around and he's hanging around with Anthony Edwards and telling him about Dwayne, and hanging around with Tyrese Halliburton and telling him Tim Hardaway stories, even though he wasn't here for Tim Hardaway, I don't think, and all this stuff. And then like 5 years down the line, the Miami Heat announced with great fanfare the acquisition of Bobby Portis.
BP.
Amin Elhassan's joining us now. He's wearing a Mukhtar jersey, Nashville FC. Was this just to upset Mike, or since they already lost, it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, most valuable player, and didn't parachute in midway through. Some people are there for the long haul. Some people just decide to show up. So.
Hani Mukhtar is a brilliant player. He's been the best player in MLS for my money for 2 seasons. Great player.
He's a co-host of Oddball, along with the woman who is
Mukhtar?
on. No, Amin Elhassan. Oh. Along with the woman whose name is on Juju Gotti's shirt, Charlotte Wilder. I want to get into some basketball stuff with you, but there's one show that you are particularly super high on right now, which I was sort of scrolling through, wondering if I should watch it. It's Telemarketers on Max.
Yeah.
Why are you so high on that?
So, shout out to my friend Sereno, told me, hey, you got to watch this. And it's executive produced by Danny McBride and Jody Hill, who made Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals, and I believe also Jody's on Righteous Gemstones. And so I'm saying, oh, this should be funny, but it's a documentary. It's not like a scripted show. I said, oh, okay. And it's about telemarketers, specifically this one company that basically is the birthplace of all the telemarketing strategies that are used today. And how they were raising money. They would call people saying they were raising money for Fraternal Order of Police in different states.
That sounds legitimate.
Yeah, and this helps fallen officers' families and all this stuff. And so, without revealing too much, first of all, I think most people know a lot of these charities, 90% of what they raise does not go to charity. It goes to the company. So it's only 10% was going to these charities. But then even the 10% is, let's say, questionable. I don't want to ruin the series for everyone. But the crazy thing about it, what makes it different, is that the guy who's making the documentary used to work at this place called CDG, this telemarketing place. He started there in high school, and when he was in high school, he had a camcorder with him, and he was taping everything and like talking to his coworkers. And the crazy thing about it is all these people are like ex-cons and stuff, people who basically could not get hired anywhere else. And they're all doing drugs and drinking on the job and everything. But as long as they hit their numbers, everything would be cool, and they hit their numbers really well.
I haven't seen this yet, but when I read about it, this is the thing that intrigued me the most, was that this guy was basically just someone working at this company who initially seemingly just wanted to make like YouTube videos at the beginning of the internet of like, haha, look how funny this all is, and then ultimately falls into, wait, what are we learning about this company? And then that's where this goes from there. So that sounds like a really interesting premise to start.
I have a question for you guys, because I've thought about this now with like the way that you release seasons and you release multiple episodes at the same time. So like this is coming out once a week, right? Presumably.
Yes.
So there's 3 episodes so far. There's going to be 3 episodes soon. How long is it? Do you know?
I don't know how many episodes it is. No.
Okay, so here's my question. So this guy has essentially been working on this project for 20 years. Right? And let's say that this is like 8 episodes. This guy is going to put out like 8 30-minute installments or 8 45-minute installments, whatever it is, right? For 20 years of his work. And this is what this person has been focusing on for 20 years. And I'm going to sit down in one weekend, and within 4 hours, I'm going to have consumed 20 years of this man's work. And then what's next for this person? Because this is all that they've been doing for 20 years.
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is, for a good portion of that, it wasn't like Jeremy just said. It wasn't work. It was just goofing
But I'm
off.
saying this is like his passion project. Like I think about it like with seasons. Like actor spends months doing these seasons or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I'm just bored, so I'm gonna watch this in like one sitting.
I'll tell you what's next. The cash register. Cha-ching.
I don't think.
Well, it's never the cash register. Not on the first thing. That's the crazy thing. Like, they never make money on the first thing. The first thing you make is just to show Hollywood I can make something. And then the next thing you get is that's where you're supposed to cash in on, right? So think about like Halle Berry. Now, obviously, she'd done a lot of stuff, but like,
Yes, she has.
when she did Jungle Fever, like, that was a hit and that was a breakout role for her, but like, she didn't make any money on that. It's the next thing. The people who made Blair Witch Project,
Right.
they didn't make any money on that.
But is there a next thing for this guy? It's like the
Yeah.
Super Size Me guy. Like there's a Super Size Me too.
Oh.
Like who watched that? Who
Oh,
cares?
the dude, you don't know what he did. He ended up like
He
getting
had like a
TV
show on like FX or something.
Yeah,
right?
and it was like every week he would do some sort of Super Size Me type thing.
I also think he kind of got canceled after that FX show, which I loved. That FX show, I thought he did
Yeah.
great work. There was one particularly at the border that resonated deeply. I loved his FX show, but I do think he's gotten out of the social conversation because of something that happened with him.
But either way, Billy, like you would say, like, all right, Super Size Me, now what? But it's like he parlayed that into the thing that is the
But
what
what
was
is
the
this-
sound, Juju? How does it go? The cash register?
Cha-ching.
go.
But what is this guy's thing gonna be? Because this was just because of his life. Also, Super Size Me. Like I watched it and I was like, this guy.
Yeah.
Well,
Morgan
it's
Morgan
soft. Like-
Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah, I go regularly to McDonald's
No,
and order
every
super
meal.
size anyway.
Hold on,
Yeah.
every 3 meals a day for
I
30
mean-
days. That's what he did. He did
30 days is nothing.
But
that's
3 meal-
1
no.
month. Try 12.
Billy. He
Let's do
didn't-
it.
he
Let's
did-
do it.
Yeah, let's do it then. All right.
Morgan
Well, who's gonna
Spurlock confessed to
fund
sexual
this?
misconduct during the Me Too movement.
Jeez.
By the way, and you get offended when I say that fast food, I think of you more than Chris.
Well,
because
I've
you
cut
bring up
down.
Fast food so
I've cut
often.
down.
By the way, speaking of the telemarketer,
Not lately. We're
So-
we're on a high uptick again. I kind of go in waves. When I first got married, we had an apartment on the beach, like, and it was right before COVID. So it was like cool at the time, and like I had to walk everywhere, and like there was no fast food around me. So
There's
like, we
only
had,
that Burger King, right?
no, yeah, but we didn't go there. Like we had like actual home cooked meals. I lost probably like 15 pounds. I was
Walking.
just walking and eating healthy, and I was like, man, I feel really good. Like I look great, and then like I moved back over to Westchester and back on that fast food diet. I'm telling you, 30 days, nothing.
Did iPhone technology ruin it for these telemarketers? Or like every time it says potential spam? Because I remember used to accidentally pick up a phone and it used to be like the fraternal order of police or anything that had to do with police or care workers or whatever. And the guilt just starts to kick in. I know Jeremy feels this. Like you're just like, oh, okay.
Juju, you feel guilty?
oh.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I got caught into. I mean, I think I donated to like I have a Planned Parenthood I give money to every month. I don't even know how. I think I was outside of the supermarket. I think they did the fraternal order police. I had to cancel that. Like that's just gut wrenching for me right there.
Well, because when I hang up on the people that call it, they're like, we're the troopers, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you
Yeah.
support, like, whatever? I'm like, I feel like if I hang up on them, I'm going to be targeted and pulled over
Well,
like
that's-
immediately.
so-
Like, they're going to have all my information, and I'm going to be a target of not donating money to the Troopers Foundation.
So that's one of the things that they talk about is like they would hit up businesses, small local businesses, particularly if they're owned by like minorities or immigrants, because those are the people to be most intimidated. Like, oh, if I say no, then the cops are gonna.
Yeah.
So they were literally thinking it's like protection because when you do it, they send you a decal. You put
my
it in your window.
cousin got one of those decals, put it on like his license plate or put it like on his thing, got off a bunch of tickets.
Really?
They're like, oh, thank you for like donating. Like, got away with a bunch. That he
What if
probably shouldn't have.
what's your move? You're leaving, let's say, the supermarket, and there's somebody there with, hey, can I get a second of your time, please? And they start telling you about an organization. Usually it's like pets or families or children, and they're just like, do you want to donate? What's your move to get out of that?
Yeah, you want let's pantomime. You don't even have to get up. I'll get up. I'm walking out the supermarket. You're the guy with the clipboard. Okay, here we
Okay.
go. This is for the video audience. For the audio audience, tough luck.
Well, you know.
Excuse me, sir. Do you
pretend
mind if
you're
I have a
walking.
second of your time? Do you want to save these animals whatsoever? No, thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah,
from
no,
Atlanta.
I cannot
It's
do
somebody
that.
on every corner, bro. My message to them is, boy, stop. Watch out.
No.
Every time. I don't
What-
have time.
Billy, do you have a move?
No, I get stuck in the
too.
conversation every time.
Here's my move. I start off by being super nice and like I want to know so many things.
Once
And I'm
you
just
give
like,
them an in,
Wow.
it's impossible. Once
that's
you
fine. I had
engage,
this
you
issue.
can't get out of
That's
it. You
fine. It's
can't.
not the sort of a discussion that I mind. It's the taking of my money that I mind.
Well,
right?
they don't want to be your friend.
Right.
That's-
So
it's
I'll just
obviously
sit there and I'll
known.
listen. I'll be like, oh wow, that's great. And I was like, Look, given the times, I like to do a little extra research in these organizations if I'm going to give any money because I got scammed a little earlier. So, do you have any literature I can take home with me and maybe decide when I get there? And then I promise, I'll make a
That's
decision.
more
when I
worse
get
than
there.
what I do.
Exactly.
You're pathological at that
I do
point.
the
I
exact
tell them the
same
truth,
thing.
brother. Watch out.
The
I'm
promise
broke.
is unnecessary.
I'm broker than
You're
you.
right.
Yeah.
The real question is,
Wait, they break it down, Juju. They've gotten to breaking it down where it's just like, if you see 3 pennies on the floor, would you pick it up? No, right? That's all you need to give us is 3 pennies a day for the rest of your life, and then there you go. And you're feeding children, or at least, the children's dogs.
You know an option I've been mulling over? So, like, I'll go to BJ's to buy things, like ridiculous size
Izzy,
things.
don't
for
do
just-
it.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Behave,
even
everyone.
think it, Juju.
Behave. Well, we'll just
HJ.
say, we'll just say I go to Costco just to avoid that situation, right? So I go to Costco to buy things in bulk, right?
LBJ.
And Costco to buy things in bulk, right? And every time I go by, there's someone that's like, what phone provider do you have,
BJ
right?
Armstrong.
So what happens is I just change the way that I walk to not walk past that person. But I think what I'm going to do the next time, because it's kind of like an inconvenient route that I end up taking, is I'm just going to tell them I have AT&T because that's the clipboard that they're holding. So if I already have the phone service that they're trying to sell me, they can't sell me anything
Billy,
else.
BJ
you
Surhoff.
don't have to say
Costco.
anything to them.
Right.
I
They
can't
get you with the upgrade at that point. Oh, well, you ain't got this new 7G we could just introduce
Enough
yesterday.
with the G's. They're all the same.
Too
all
many
right,
Gs.
my phone doesn't work anywhere.
So let me ask you guys this: when you guys walk by those guys, like usually they're in Times Square or places like that, and they say, "Hey, man, do you listen to hip hop?" Like, what do you do? Like the guy that's trying to sell you.
I was
different
so
scenario.
I
BJ
thought
Upton.
one time someone was just giving me the CD, and I was like, "Thanks," and they're like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I only had like a 20, and I bought like someone's mixtape for like $20.
when I was
Yeah.
15,
I thought people were just nice and like to give you things, you know?
I was encountered like one of these Hare Krishna people on 42nd Street, and I'm walking, and he like hands me the pamphlet, and I'm just like, all right, cool. And he's like, no, brother, that's gonna be fine. I'm like, then take it. Like, I don't know. I just handed it right back. Like,
You ever do that with a gas station? They're like, "Hey, I'm giving out my CDs for
No,
free," and then
never.
they take the CD, and it's like, "This will be a $20 donation
No,
if you
no.
don't mind."
That's what happened to me.
I do mind.
I don't. I'll be like, I don't have a CD player. Do you listen to hip hop? No, I don't. Like, I just lie.
Actually, I
Strictly
don't have
gospel.
ears.
You just look them dead in the eyes and be like, watch out. When they get it.
Not when I do it.
One time after a concert, an opening act was selling merch backstage, or at the front, and I went up to go like buy a sticker or something to be supportive, and they were like, "Oh, we're all out of stickers, but I have my first album on vinyl. It's $30. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, yep, I definitely do." And I bought a $30 vinyl that's still sitting in a drawer.
Thank you
I
for
do
your
have a record
support, by
player,
the
it
way.
just doesn't work.
What was the band?
Don't know.
I would have been like, you know what? I really like to do my own research on these new vinyls coming out all the time, so I got to go check at home, and I promise I will buy one on the internet.
Juju got the ink.